Hello everyone, welcome back to The Winning Agenda. My name's Jesse Muehlman-Marshall. Today we're going to be looking at limited formats. So we're having a look at draft and sealed play, some different types of draft that you can run. And the aim of today's video is to give you an understanding of how you can run these kind of events in your local game store or your play group and get at some limited play in Sorcery. Before we kick off, I just want to very quickly thank Mike from Collector Art House for this amazing Philosopher's Stone and Elemental Avatars collage print that he sent me. I did grab an artist proof from him, and he very kindly sent me this print as a gift to say thanks for all the work that our store is doing in Sorcery. So I'm going to be getting that framed up and put up in the store. So thank you very much, Mike. And this is a quick look at the artist proof that I got from Elvira Pavlikovska, and it is, of course, Mariner's Curse. So yeah, that's a nice little one that I've been very pleased to add to my collection and to my display for the videos, and I hope you enjoy. And thanks very much, Mike. So now let's dive into sealed and draft play. So when you're looking to put on a limited event at your store, what you're effectively giving your players is an opportunity to come along with no decks pre-built, no pre-understanding really of the game at all necessarily. Certainly a lot of the sealed events that we've run at our store in Melbourne, Australia, we've had people come along and play their very first games of Sorcery in the event. And it's a great way to give people a chance to learn in a casual environment, whilst also leveling the playing field a bit, because you don't have to actually have any cards before you turn up, and people aren't just going to beat you with all the best decks in the format. So what does limited look like? There are a couple of different ways you can do it that I'm going to run through in a minute, which is mainly sealed and draft play, and then a few different variants on each of those. But the key thing to understand in terms of making it work as a store is that you need to have the avatars for people and the basic sites for people. So you need to have, as I've got there on the screen, infinite basic sites for people to grab to fill out their atlases, and you need to have the avatars available for them after they've constructed their sealed pool or their draft deck to be able to play from any of these. And one of the great improvements that was made in beta was having the elemental avatars in the ordinary slot, or actually the basic site slot, which means you get a lot more of them. So it's quite easy as a store or as a play group to accumulate quite a few Spark Mage, Waveshaper, Flamecaller, Geomancer, along with the sorcerers that you get in the alpha packs, or now still in the beta packs in that basic site slot. And you can provide all 5 of those avatars and a range of them available so that to have enough of them available so that each of your players can choose between those avatars, even if they don't open them in their own booster packs. So what's the deck size that we play with? So both for draft and for sealed, so for all limited formats, we play with 25 card spellbooks and 12 card atlases, and there's no rarity restriction. So if you happen to open 3 of the same elite or get past 3 of the same elite in a draft, then you can play all 3. And if you are very lucky to get 2 of the same unique in either your sealed deck or your draft deck, then you can also play both of those as well as being able to play 5 of an ordinary, for example, and break that ordinary limit as well. So the play structure that we use is best of 1. All of this, I should say, is you can make up your own. I'm just giving you an idea of how we run events at Plenty of Games and something that has worked really well for us. And any of these things you can adapt and change, but this is just a blueprint that you can use to immediately start running these events at your store, and you can sort of see what works for your local play group and adapt and tinker as you go. So we play best of 1 rounds, 30 to 45 minute rounds, and Swiss rounds. So winners play winners and so on and so forth. And your number of rounds is determined by the Swiss pairing rules. So if you have up to 8, you have 3 rounds, 9 to 16, you have 4 rounds, so on and so forth. And of course, you can change the number of rounds, because ultimately what the Swiss rounds allows you to do is get to an eventual winner. But if the purpose is not to determine who is the winner overall, and you just want to say you've got 35 people and you just want to play 4 rounds, that's completely fine. It just means you're going to have a few people on the same number of points at the end. But ultimately, if it's a casual event, that's not a big deal. But the best thing about Swiss pairings, as opposed to Swiss numbers of rounds, is that winners play winners, which just generally makes for a better environment as the tournament goes along. So 30 to 45 minute rounds is, I think, a good time. Obviously, if your players are newer and you've got more people who are just learning the game, you can push more towards the 45 minute rounds. But for limited games, in general, 30 to 35 minutes tends to be enough to play one game. yeah, the newer people are, and sometimes the more controlling, like if you've got a wave shaper mirror, sometimes you're pushing 35 minutes pretty easily. But what this round time does is it keeps things moving pretty quickly. It means you can get in 3 or 4 rounds in just over a couple of hours, which is really time efficient as far as trading card games tournaments go. And then when you add on sort of 40 to 45 minutes for deck construction or drafting, you actually don't end up with a huge amount of time and a huge time commitment, which can be really good for people with different demands on their time in their lives. The other good thing about shorter rounds and best of one is it minimizes waiting time, because even if you play very quickly and your match is over quickly, the amount of time you'll be waiting before the end of the round is much lower. Whereas if you have best of 3 and you have, say, 60-minute rounds and you play very quickly, then the amount of time that you're waiting, if every round's going to time, is going to be much longer. So best of one and shorter round times helps to mitigate some of that. So what exactly are these draft and sealed formats? So we'll start off with sealed deck. You get 6 booster packs for each player, and it is the kind of easiest and simplest way to introduce people to the game, because they don't have to worry about which cards to pick. They don't have to do any card evaluation other than, after they open their packs, just putting together the deck that they think is cool. Draft is a little bit more pressure because you're making picks as you go along, which is kind of a dynamic deck construction as you're drafting, whereas with sealed, you've got your whole pool in front of you from the start, and you can just make those deck building decisions on your own without any pressure. So sealed is generally best with 4 or more players. You open your 6 packs, you make your deck, as I said, 25 card minimum spellbook, 12 card minimum atlas, and because you've got those infinite basic sites available, you don't have to stress about how many sites you're opening in your packs, same in the draft formats. You can just focus on drafting the best spells and putting together the best spells. Maybe you open a couple of really cool sites you want to play, but you've always got that backup of having as many basic sites as you want to fill out your atlas, and then of course whichever avatar you want from amongst those elemental avatars and the sorcerer. So from these 6 packs you open, you make the best deck you can, and as you would have seen if you've seen my sealed deck construction video on the channel, that generally involves sort of laying things out in cost curve order, making some selections about different things you want, like you want some removal, you want some good minions, you want to have a decent number of minions as a proportion of your overall deck, sort of probably above 50% for most decks in Sorcery, and you want to have enough ways to close out the game. So you make all those evaluations, you put your deck together, lay it out, shuffle it up, sleeve it up, and you're ready to go. So sealed is quite simple. We generally give people about, if they're newer, and you've got a lot of newer people, you'll go towards sort of 50, 60 minutes for deck construction. People are going to open their packs, lay the cards out, sleeve them up. But if you've got sort of, once people are a bit more seasoned and they're a bit more experienced with the card pool, 30 to 40 minutes can generally be enough for people to construct their sealed decks. So the other main format that we're going to talk about today is booster draft. And in a booster draft, you get 3 booster packs per player. You sit around in a table, around the same table. You open your first pack, you draft 1 card, and you pass the rest of the cards to the left. And you repeat that 14 times. So you've taken out the basic site or the token at the back, the basic site or the avatar. And so you're left with the other 14 cards in the pack. So you do the first one, pass it, and then after 14 times doing that, you'll have 14 cards, and they will have gone all the way around the table, all the way around the table, you get them back. So what that effectively means is you've got 8 packs being opened. So you're going to get 1 pick from everybody's pack that they opened eventually as they go around the table. And then you'll get 2 picks from a number of those packs, from 6 of those packs as they go around, to total up to 14. Then you open pack 2, you draft 1 card, you pass it to the right this time. Everyone else is doing that. They're all going to go around the table until you got 14 cards from pack 2. Then you're going to open pack 3, draft 1 card, pass to the left again. So it's left, right, left. Then you're going to repeat that 14 times till you got 14 cards. And voila, you've drafted your 42 cards card pool. So from those 42 cards that you draft, you're going to construct a 25 card spellbook and again, a 15 card atlas. Remembering that you get all those basic sites for free, so you can draft 42 spells if you want. You don't have to draft a single site, and you can make the best spellbook out of that, and then you can play just entirely basic sites if you want. So this is a great way to... the difference between Booster Draft and Sealed is that in Booster Draft, you can construct more streamlined decks, and you're not so dependent on the random chance of what you open. Obviously, what you open has an impact, but as you're drafting, if you're reading the signals of what the players next to you are not playing, so if they're passing you lots of powerful fire spells, for example, you get the impression the couple of people next to you aren't in fire, then you're going to, on average, get a better fire card pool and more access to better fire cards than from a 6-pack sealed pool, because you're actually getting your packs you've opened, plus maybe a couple of players next to you who aren't picking fire cards at all at the start of the packs. And so you get the cream of the crop and the pick of all the best fire cards from maybe those 9 packs of your 3, plus the 3 next to you to the right, and 3 next to you again. That's all kind of complex, deeper draft analysis, but the basics of it is you're getting 3 packs, you're getting to see your pack as you open it, take the best card or the card you like the best, try and draft a cohesive deck as you go, and put together something that you enjoy playing. And I really like the skill of Booster Draft because you're constructing your deck as you go along. You don't know what's going to come next, so you have lots of those moments as you go through the first pack and then in pack 2 and 3 where you're like, oh, I really need some removal, or I really need some higher power minions. Is this the pack that's going to have it? Is this going to have it? And then you get rewarded, or sometimes not, as that goes along. And you've got to make those value decisions where you're going, oh, I really need a 5-power minion. Oh, there's an Amazon Warriors, but it's also got a berry in the pack and I need removal too. What do I think I need more? Do I think that there's going to be more coming of one or the other later in the draft? Do I think there's more of one or the other in the card pool? You know, maybe there's not that much removal in Earth, so the berry is kind of rarer amongst the card pool, whereas there are a few more 5-power minions, so I think I might get something that replaces the Amazon Warriors more easily. All those kind of things about knowledge of the card pool, skill of constructing a deck and knowing what components you want in your deck to make it work, all of those things get rewarded and are a lot of fun in Booster Draft. So I really recommend Booster Draft probably as a more advanced format. Advanced in the sense that you want people to have a basic understanding of how to play the game, card evaluation, and what cards are in the card pool to some extent, at least at ordinary rarity, in order for them to be able to make informed and meaningful, skillful decisions in the Booster Draft. So I recommend starting people off with Sealed Deck. It just gives everybody kind of a very level playing field, 6 packs, that's all you can construct from. Whereas in Booster Draft, that skill and knowledge of the card pool and of the game can mean that you get access to better cards because you've got better card evaluation skills than others. So that's something that you want to do once people kind of have a higher floor on average across your draft pool in terms of their knowledge and skill. Team Draft is a variant on Booster Draft, and this is one that you can play. So I should have said with Booster Draft, you want 8 players exactly for that to function kind of the best that it can. Team Draft can function really well with 6 players. So it's a really good format if you're trying to run a draft and you only have 6 people turn up. It follows all those same Booster Draft rules, but you have 2 teams playing against each other. And so it's 3v3, and you stagger your seating. So it goes Team 1, Team 2, Team 1, Team 2, Team 1, Team 2 around the table of 6. You can also play Team Draft with 8 players as well. There's no problem with that. But 6 is kind of probably optimal for Team Draft. You then only play against the other team. So when you're draft, and there's assistance permitted. So usually you'd sit at a table where you can have a team of 3 sitting on one side and a team of 3 sitting on the other side. You play 1v1 matches, but you can all ask each other questions and assist each other throughout the game, which is a lot of fun. So there's that ability to say, oh, do you think I should play this, or should I play this here, or should I do that there, to your teammates as you're going. And also in the drafting portion, there's somewhat of a skill in knowing that when you pass a couple of powerful cards, it's likely that one of them is going to get round to your next teammate. So the person next to you is always going to be on the other team. So you also start to get some idea of what the person next to your left who's on the other team is going to be drafting. And you can try and mold their deck a little bit by what you're passing through. But then you also might start to get an idea of what you've passed to your teammate who's 2 seats down as well. So there's a bit of fun in that. But in general, it's just a great way to utilize having only 6 players for a booster draft and create kind of a fun and enjoyable environment where everyone's involved all the time because of the team nature of it. Winston Draft is my favorite format for 2 or 4 players. If you don't happen to have 8 or you can't even get 6, but you've got 4 players turn up for a draft, Winston is heaps of fun. So in a Winston draft, you play only the other team. So if it's 1v1, obviously you're playing the other player. But in a 2v2 Winston draft, you will draft with somebody else, and then you'll play 1v1 matches against your two opponents. So you just play 2 rounds. I'll play opponent 1, then I'll play opponent 2. We'll swap. And again, there's assistance permitted. So you ideally want to play with both matches being able to take place with team 1 on one side of the table and team 2 on the other side, playing their 1v1 matches side by side. So I'm going to take you through what a Winston draft looks like in practice, just a very quick demonstration. So the first thing that you'll do in a Winston draft is open all of the packs for both players. So it's, again, 3 packs per player. You're going to shuffle the cards and make 1 large stack, and then you're going to lay out 3 single card piles like what I've got here. So you got that 1 large stack of all these 3, 6, 9, 12 packs shuffled up. You don't know the rarity distribution anymore. It's all shuffled, and they're going in 1 face down stack. Obviously, this can be a little bit funny as well when you've got sorcery cards that have a double-sided art on the back because you know what's coming next. But as you'll see in a moment, you can't always control who gets that in the end anyway. So you've got your 3 piles laid out, which are just single cards. And what the first team's going to do is they're going to look at that first pile. So they see a Blood Ravens, and they're going to decide whether they want the Blood Ravens or not, whether they want to pick that card for their team. If they don't pick it, then they put it back face down, and they put a card from the top of the stack on top of the Blood Ravens. Then they get to look at the second pile, and it's a Gaia Hippogriffs, and they decide that they want the Gaia Hippogriffs because that's a good first pick. So they'll take that, and they'll add that to their pool, and then they'll replace it with a card from the top of the stack. So then the next team, it's their turn. So they're going to look at the 2 cards. So we've still got the Blood Ravens there, and we've got the Firebolts now on top. And Firebolt's great pick. So they're like, yep, we're going to take those 2 cards. And because there's 2 cards there in the pile, they actually get to take the whole pile. So the more that teams are foregoing taking a particular pile, you might have 4 or 5 medium cards, and teams are like, no, we're not going to take those. We think we can get something better. And it gets that pile will just keep getting better and better and better as more cards are added to it. And then eventually someone's going to take the whole pile. So this pile got a lot better pretty quickly. The Blood Ravens wasn't great, but the Firebolts is. So team 2 is going to take that pile. They're going to replace it with a card from the top of the stack. And then team 1's going to have a look again. Let's just say they didn't like the first card again. They didn't like the second card. Oh, so sorry, that if they didn't like the first card again, they should have put a card on top there. That's my mistake. But yeah, so imagine there's a card on top of the first pile. They put a card on top of the second pile because they don't like that either. They put a card on top of the third pile because they don't like that either. And then if you don't take the third pile, you just get a random card off the top, and you have no control over what that is. You just get a single card. So they haven't liked any of the piles, but off the top, they get a rolling boulder, which they're really happy with. So they take that. And then it'll go back to the other team again, and they'll look at the first pile, and so on and so forth. And you do that until you have drafted all the cards in the stack, which takes generally about half an hour. But it's a really fun, dynamic way to draft, particularly with a partner. I really like it as a 2v2 format because you're looking at each of the piles with your partner, crafting your decks as you go along, deciding whether you want to take that one or whether you want to have a look at one of the other piles further along. And there's a bit of fun and lots of fun conversations and card evaluation discussions that can come out of that. So Winston Draft is an excellent format for either 1v1 if you just got 2 players, or particularly for 2v2. So the upshot of everything is Limited is a lot of fun. I love Sealed. It's a great way to get new people into the game. It's a fantastic thing to run at your store. It gives people that fun of cracking packs. You never know what you're going to get. You might get some awesome unique or foil or cool thing in your sealed pool that you can take home. But it also allows you to use the whole of the card pool, all the ordinaries. And it's a very level playing field for new players and a fantastic way to get them on board. Even if they don't know all the rules or which cards are particularly good, they can just put together a 25-card spell book from amongst those 6 packs they opened and do a bit of trial and error and just learn the game. And it's heaps of fun. Booster Draft is a great way to level that up. It's an excellent, really fun skill testing format that, again, lets you use lots of cards you might not use in Constructed and learn different ways that they'll interact and that you can enjoy the game. So I hope you enjoyed the video. It was just a short little introduction to limited play in Sorcery TCG. If you've got any questions, leave a comment, send me an email at thewinningagenda@gmail.com or hit me up on Discord. Always happy to talk about limited. Thanks again to Mike for the fantastic art print that he sent as a gift. And I hope you all have a fantastic day. We'll see you again very soon. Cheers.